Welcome to Permission to Evolve. I'm your host, Brandon Thielk. I'm a performance and life coach.
Deschenes. I am Brandon's co-host and producer for this podcast.
Today, we're going to be getting into this topic of permission to not care. We're very overstimulated these days. We think that we have to care about everything. So that's one avenue we're going to go down. But it's also this idea of like you might have really cared about something in the past. It might have been a huge part of your identity. We see this with athletes. I see it in myself with baseball where I put a lot of work into something, really, really cared about it, maybe too much. And with time and space, it has pretty much like zero feeling left for me. It's that idea that whatever I've really cared about or focused in the past, this is permission to evolve. Like we are trying to always evolve here and be up to speed with who you currently are. That may mean surrendering some of these old ideas that you've been clinging to or holding on to just because you feel like you should care because maybe you invested a lot of time and energy into something. There is that desire to kind of squeeze all the juice out of it. And hopefully you did that to whatever extent, whatever your focus was. But we do want to be able to put things to bed and really redirect our focus in a way that serves us now. We have to manage our energy, and that is about choosing what you care about. If I care about something now, I have opinions and judgments and all these things wrapped up in that. That's costly energy wise. So I might be getting pulled into things that might not serve me that way. Whether it could be politics, it could be relationship, family stuff, it could be career stuff, it could be, yeah, your athletic endeavors. Maybe you used to really love something and now it's not really there for you anymore, but you're hanging on to it and trying to keep it going. So it's just kind of letting things fall away. We're allowed to have phases. We're allowed to, that's the main idea that I teach is to like really follow your excitement, your interests. And so something may serve you for a good chunk of time and it may be a useful tool for you to develop yourself, but that doesn't mean it has to be a big part of your life forevermore. It's just that ability to allow yourself to evolve. Yeah. So we're going to explore this a little bit and see what we come up with. Do you have a question for today?
Yeah, I think the question kind of goes along with this topic a little bit, touching back on the idea of identity. And I think about it, you touched on multiple different possibilities, politics, whatever. But I think about it, where people get kind of locked in on an idea and then they hang on to it. They believe they can't change because they've committed themselves to something. Even if they're starting to see the error of their ways, or actually, I just thought of a good example. So I used to show horses, and similar to you with like baseball and giving it up, I gave that up. I showed with this family, and we were talking about show season schedule, whatever, it doesn't matter. And I distinctly remember her saying to me, like, well, this is just what we do. This is what we do. And I remember thinking about, well, but what if what if there's more? But what if
Right.
there's more? What if this isn't
Yeah.
just what you do? I guess my question is a little bit around that, you know, kind of overcoming, and this will play directly into the topic today, but that sort of overcoming that hump of this is what we always do, or my identity is attached to this thing.
That plays on all the things we commonly talk about of safety, security. Identity is this continuity. It is like things are predictable. I know what to expect. There's not generally a lot of danger in that. It's just like always grasping for certainty. There's really no judgments on it in terms of like, well, just like personally, I would prefer to live each day would be a little bit different or, have some excitement or some variety in my life. Some people really do value the continuity of things and they just want like they take pride in like what you can build from being so consistent of just like, okay, this is my life, this is exactly what I'm doing and just stay in that lane forever. It really it is kind of like Groundhog Day where every day is a little pretty much the same thing. And yeah, so that's that realm of identity. We generally build our identity around our value system and what we believe, but then also what we feel like would keep us safe. And that's largely built on our past. I've never really gelled with only one way of thinking, like this is it, like there's no other way to see it. I've always questioned that stuff. We want to have this flexibility of mind, if we want the growth path. Not everybody does, and that's okay. But that's the thing, is it's that predictability. It does create safety and comfort, and so that is the value in it. But if yeah, there is kind of that point where, the well runs a little bit dry in terms of, if I know what to expect every day and there's no variety, I do just kind of settle into these grooves. One, I generally become more and more rigid mentally. I like my predictable thing, and anything that comes in that challenges that, there's generally a lot of big reactions around that, because we literally have these things hardwired into our system. These grooves are very deep. And so anything that's out of the ordinary would really kind of jolt our system, because we can't really process it. Our mind is just this one track. Generally, you kind of see that more in, like small town living, small knit communities, just like everything's that close knit, normal way of being. That's a choice, that's a preference. But, it is this ability to, okay, if I go outside that system, how do I react? Am I resilient? Am I flexible? Do I have the ability to work through challenges that are outside of this little box that I'm living? And a lot of times people build the small world and then they expect everybody else to fit in it. And that causes a lot of problems. It does fall under that realm of, this is the way we do it, or because I said so. There's usually not a lot of depth to the thought process. And, more adventurous types like myself, and that doesn't sit well. Like, hey, like I actually need a reason why this should be done this way. I'm not just going to blindly accept it. I think they're different personality types. You obviously dive deep into the Enneagram, so I'm sure you see a lot of those threads. Maybe we can shine a light there as well if you'd like.
I mean, yeah, I think tools like the Enneagram can certainly help call out those sorts of patterns in people, for sure. And there are people whose personality patterns definitely lend themselves to being more, to use your word, adventurous in terms of the way that they live their life, that they are looking for something exciting or searching for something that sort of leads to that path of wanting to understand the reasons, wanting to understand more, versus types that tend to be more rigid or black and white in their kind of thinking and behavior. And like, these are the rules and we follow the rules because they're the rules, kind of thing. And I say that
But
like it's a bad thing, but it's not
well, yeah.
necessarily bad. Yeah.
Well, that's thing is, if you're on the opposite end, it's just like, oh, that drives me nuts. But like the truth is we need all the different types.
Yes.
We need strong, stable people that, can go through the motions every day. Like that's a big part of what society is. That's what makes things run. And there's tremendous value in that, and you can build a good life that way. It's choosing what you care about. Like I don't care about that type of life, but it's not discounting it either. It's just, I don't prefer it. I also am at the point now where I can see the value in it. Maybe when I was younger, I was easier to dismiss that, and that's growth on my end. But we need every different version of type of person or mentality, because, a lot of times that's what makes the engine run. That's what makes society work. Is you can't just have tons of adventurous people that don't want to plant their feet anywhere and that kind of thing. You need a mixture. There's value in all of it, and they are really just preferences. And so my challenge here is just always like, well, did I consciously choose that life, or did I just kind of take it by default? Did I actually want bigger things, but the anxiety and stress of trying to make that happen, did that shut me down? Those types of things. It's really, our goal here is to clear the way for things that hold you back. And if that's part of the equation of like, I've settled into this life because I felt like I had to, or, once again, some people, very intense start to life, had to grow up very fast. We talked about that last week, all those things that could kind of lead to like, yeah, I don't really want to buck the current much. I just kind of want to settle in now, because I'm tired of fighting. I'm tired of all the stress. That could lead to that, where you could really build a comfortable lane that way. Life tends to push us and pull us in all these crazy directions. And, I think each path is valid, and we do just operate on preference here. Whatever you want out of life is great. I was very like motivated baseball wise, wanted to make things happen there, very like spiritually driven, really digging into all that stuff. And so that was always me kind of pushing the limits of myself. And it's just like not everybody's going to be that way, nor everybody should be that way. You have to figure out what suits you best. And yeah, like there is something really comforting about having a predictable, stable life. And there might not be a lot of growth happening, but there might be some other benefits coming from that that are very valuable. So yeah, I think it's all good. And it is just kind of seeing the bigger picture that, we need all the different types. And me being a certain way doesn't mean I have to hate the other way. It just means like I don't quite understand it. I actively try to like bridge that gap where I have more understanding and less judgment of it. And I feel like I've come a decently far way there, and there's always more work to do. So
Let's transition to the kind of main topic of permission to not care. I think it definitely goes along with that.
oh yeah, so we kind of think that there's like main ideas that we generally just feel pulled into, and that tends to be more in the political arena these days. And it could also be family dynamics. It could mean like family loyalty stuff. It could mean, if I belong to some sort of group, you run a triathlon team. It's like anytime you get people together, it's just like part of bonding is caring about the same stuff too. You have something to relate to there. We could talk about religion and things like that of this is what we do, this is how we do it. A lot of those same frames apply across the board. This process we go through where we really take a deeper look and question things and try to understand ourselves better. This is like it's called the individuation process, meaning like I'm getting clearer on who I am rather than just getting pulled into all the things around me. And in that process, I have to learn to manage my energy better. I have to be able to put my focus into things that are meaningful to me. There's things that are designed to get kind of the knee jerk reaction from us and get us pulled into things because our energy is very valuable. And a lot of times, if you're going to grow an organization or a cause or something like that, it is about pulling on people's emotions, getting them involved that way. We just have to take that inventory. Like, is this in my best interest? Is this something I really care about? You know, am I supposed to care, or is it just kind of the trend of the week or whatever? We have to develop this ability to train our mind and focus in order to get anywhere we want in our life and really build ourselves. And that's choosing what not to give our attention to, because there's millions of injustices across the world. There's millions of problems. We talked a couple of weeks ago where it's like our mind literally can't comprehend this much stuff. And we get pulled in these directions constantly. And then we kind of wonder why we're stagnant in our life. It's because like my energy is going outside of me constantly. And if I'm really going to make some headway on the things that are meaningful to me, I have to start to create those filters. I have to block some things out. I have to really get in tune with what's meaningful to me. We don't have to have an opinion about everything. We don't have to care about everything. There are an infinite number of things to care about, and we want to put our eggs in the baskets that matter to us. There are the humanity pieces of like, of course, we want to have a heart. Of course, we want to help where we can, but I can't give up everything I've got in to these things that are just really a lot of times too big of problems for any one person to solve. I give what I can, but then I also need to build myself, and that's really where I can create the biggest impact anyway, is becoming this focused, clear vessel that, things can be done through me, and I have this clarity and the strength to make things happen in my life, and to have the emotional availability to really care and be kind to other people. Because if things aren't going well in my life and I'm really stressed out about that all the time, that is all consuming, and that does tend to make us self-absorbed as well, where we really focus on our problems. And so this is about like, okay, if there's some parts of me that are really stuck and left behind, that's really what my work is. That's the stuff that's really gonna get me moving, improve my mood, get me feeling better, more optimistic about life. because I can just get lost in the bigger picture of all the stuff that I have zero control over. And we tend to also use that when we get in this place where we're giving our focus to all these heavy things. It's just like we start to point our finger and blame that stuff. And that's a losing game because it's too far outside of ourselves. We always have to bring it inward. We have to start to process information relative to our life to really build that strength and character and all the things we want to bring with us. That's how we make our impact. A lot of times we get too spread across the board. I'm caring about too many things. And so, let's say the things that are near and dear to you, like you definitely give that stuff your attention, but we do, everybody has those limits. We've been really talking about that lately is like, I have to understand that I have this limited capacity and my job is actually to build that capacity. And I do that through my clarity and focus. So once I start to get more conscious and be more intentional about my actions, once I start to feel better about the things in my life, once I start to heal the pain that's holding me back, now that all has benefits that expands outside me because now I've developed compassion and understanding, and I've lightened up my own heart so that I am more available to other people. And so it always starts with you first, and then we start to grow outside that. But a lot of times people get too caught up early in the game where they don't really have a capacity yet. And that was the thing, this journey I've taken in doing this coaching, you get into it because you want to help other people. You get excited, the shifts and changes you've made in yourself, and you want to share that. But it is really just being mindful of what your capacity is. I've had to like consciously build my capacity over a long stretch of time to where now I can handle a lot more of other people's energy. I can assist a lot more clients through this modality, and because it's taxing energetically, it's taxing emotionally, it's all these things. It's creating this protected space for you to really kind of like a cocoon for you to really build yourself so eventually you can spread your wings. If we take on too much stuff that's out of our control too early, we might really be stagnating ourselves and shutting ourselves down. And really it's this journey about building yourself so that you have that higher capacity, and from that place we can share so much more. It is really about choosing what you have the capacity to care about. Whatever you give your attention to, you're giving it your power as well. So if I have negative emotions when I go give my focus to something, that's stealing energy from me. It's going out the door, and it might be wasted on something I have no control over. And that might sound heartless, but it's a necessary process to really build ourselves first. And we start to clean up our lens so that I'm less reactive around things anyway. So I can observe things without getting emotionally pulled into them. And that's actually where I'm more powerful. I'm more in that objective, neutral, balanced place where I'm not just getting pulled into heavy emotions and then now I'm emotionally flooded. And then from that place, I don't have many resources to deal with anyway. So it's the cart before the horse thing. We want to build our capacity first. And so that is starting to be selective and really detaching from the things that steals your energy, the things that really wear you out, exhausts you, makes you feel miserable, or gives you a really negative outlook on the world. If we're giving that too much of our attention, it could really sink us and stall us out in our own life. And now, we didn't really accomplish anything there. So it's getting to that place of taking responsibility for your energy and being selective on where you channel that. We have to build in some of those filters, and that's things, there might be judgments of other people if I choose not to participate in certain things or whatever, but everybody is responsible for managing their own energy. Those judgments are designed to get the reaction out of me so that I get pulled off track again. And so the stronger you get, the less you get pulled into those things. So that's really our goal here, is to build that first. And then from there, you can really get dialed into what's important to you, where you can actually make an impact.
You think of a couple things. One is that a lot of what you're caring about might be tied to beliefs that you have or beliefs that you adopted when you were young or involved in different groups. You mentioned the triathlon team, but religious communities, etc., could also be influencing some of that in terms of like you feel like you should care about something based
Mhm.
on these different beliefs. Anyway, so I would love to hear you talk about that. But one of the things I did during the pandemic, and this might be useful for listeners, and I would love for you to add on to this as well if you have thoughts on it. One of the things I did during the pandemic was I did this exercise with those giant sticky pads of paper, like the great big ones.
Oh,
And I
okay.
hung up 3 of them in the hallway in the downstairs of my house. And one of them was things I believe, things my community believes, things my family believes. And I tried to really categorize when I would get up, like when something would come up for me that was, well, I believe whatever the thing was. Do I actually believe that? Or is this something that came from a community that I was a part of? So a
Yeah.
church group or whatever. Or did
Hmm.
this come from my parents and actually this is no longer true for me? I don't believe it anymore. But it was a way for me to sort through different beliefs to like find the things that I
Hmm.
cared about. Anyway, I would love for you to talk a little bit more about how the belief piece might be influencing what you care about and how do you separate what you truly believe.
I think that's a wonderful exercise, and I think it's good to get the visual too. It's because when we have all these things running around inside of us, like it's tough to have that detachment from it. If we can just kind of put things out there, we can relate to it differently and see it differently. So the things we do get pulled into, if it's like an injustice, I'm getting pulled into it and activated because of that's the human experience. We've all experienced injustice, right? We all have a wound around that type of idea, or yeah, you're being treated unfairly or being left out, or it's like we all have these different dynamics that we experience growing up that have wounds attached to them, and that's what the game is these things bring that reaction out of us. We might have intense anger, we might have all these things, but it's just like, well, is it it's always about, okay, I need to go address that piece first. This got activated. If I go run around now, I keep building that emotion in me. It actually grows if I'm just giving into the anger and rage of it. So it's just like that's our cue to be like, okay, well, what is this really about in me? I'm seeing it in the external world, but for me to have such a reaction, there's like a thread inside me that's personal to me. That's a big part of what really gets us pulled into things. The work is actually that first step is going inward and kind of reconciling that experience within you. And then that's where we get that neutral ground that we're talking about. I can observe this and I actually understand it at a deeper level because I reworked it in myself and I healed that trauma. So now I'm less pulled into those emotional reactions. And that place, I'm more resourceful. And so the belief component is we're kind of given all these things. We absorb them from day one, like whatever our family patterns are, whatever is commonly said or taught or believed in the household, we pretty much absorb that stuff. And then we go to school, we go to these different groups, and they're all philosophies, they're all ideas about how to live life or what you should or shouldn't be doing and that kind of thing. When we're dealing with authority figures, we might some of those things we might not agree with, but when we're a kid, we can't always say no. A lot of times we do have to go along with that stuff. And so in that process, there's self-betrayal happening, right? There's a part of me like, I don't feel like this is right for me, but I feel like I have to do it. And that's what creates the shoulds and all those things that we normally operate in society is like, oh, this is how it's done. This is how what everybody does. So I guess I should do it too, because I don't want to be the outcast. I don't want to be left out. I want to be accepted. And so that's where these things get that pull on us. And then so the beliefs start to form that like I have to be this way to stay safe. I have to adopt these behaviors. I have to conform to whatever's going on around me. The more we exist in that, it really does just cement into our system where, these beliefs actually do get hardwired and it creates, this actual physical, tangible signal within our body that's really practiced. And so that's the thing is beliefs are laws about life. It's what we believe to be absolutely true based on what we know. And that's what rewiring is literally me questioning my beliefs and softening them and dismantling them and choosing something that aligns with me. And so I was taught to care about this, and I actually have to stop caring about it in order to create that space. That doesn't mean I've let go of the attachment to it. That means I've gotten the distance. So when I stop feeding it energy that way, it's still a practice pattern in me. And so I'm still going to feel the pull. That's where we sit with things and we we keep trying to rework it. We keep trying to see it a different way so that it has less and less power over us, where we don't just automatically get pulled into it. So it's this ability to step back, to pause, to question, to think a little bit deeper about it. And that's the thing is, there's some of the things we got from childhood, we got from groups, whatever, it might serve us very well. There's a lot of good stuff in there a lot of times, but then there's also things that probably don't serve us, and it might not be suitable for the context of our life. It might have worked for our parents, or it might have worked for whatever I was involved with. That might have been actually a pretty good structure to operate from. But if I'm no longer in that structure and I'm living a very different life, I'm going to need new rules for that. I have to be able to detach from those beliefs, stop caring so much about it. The hard part is the ego part. So when I create that detachment and, okay, I'm caring less about this, the ego part is the part of me that wants to prove them wrong. That means like I need to battle this idea, when really I'm still wrapped up in it. Rather than me aligning with this way, which I thought was natural, I've created space, and now I'm on the opposite side of it, and I'm looking at it and I feel like I have to fight against it. So I'm still wasting a lot of energy there, when we're really just trying to align with preference. This is what I grew up with. I didn't really prefer it. I didn't like it. That doesn't mean I need to disprove it, prove them wrong. I don't need to be right about this. I just want to get to the place where I don't care enough, where I can fully detach from it and just align with what I want. Because that's where I can channel my energy cleanly. If I'm still battling something, I'm still wrapped up into it to a certain degree. That's kind of that, we have like step one is removing yourself, and then we go deeper into that. And then step two is like, is this valid? Or, do I just need to tweak this a little bit, this belief? And if I need to fully dismantle it, then I need to do that work of like, okay, how do I detach from this? How do I free myself up from it so that I'm not like battling and wasting my energy on trying to prove myself right? That's the surrendering the ego part, is I have to allow things to be. I also, okay, that's how they want to live. This is how I want to live. Neither one's right or wrong. We have to get to that place, because that's where our energy can run cleanly. But if I feel like I have to fight against it, now I'm engaged in that battle, and so that's wasting all this energy. But then it's like I'm not actually making progress there. I just distance myself from the thing I didn't want, but I'm still like focused on it. Okay, and we just want to get our focus heading in the right direction, and that means I have to detach and really not care about it. Okay, so, and that's the thing is, beliefs, it's like they should evolve. The more I learn, the more I realize like, okay, I need like context and nuance and all these things to decide what I believe. And that's a highly variable thing depending on the situation. A lot of beliefs are these all or none, like blanket beliefs that just cover a lot of areas. And that's what really limits us is as soon as I bump up against a very general belief, that automatically triggers a stress response in me, where I feel like I need to protect myself because there's no nuance in it. Okay. It's just like, there's a huge net that can like just catch me. That's the problem is we have to get really conscious about our thought process, how we see the world. We want to see it in the way that serves us, allows us to move forward. We're not getting caught up in all these little minor details. When we have those big general belief nets that are cast over us, it takes a while to unwind those and shake those off, because it just covers so many areas of our life. It is that ability to surrender it. It is the ability to not need to prove ourselves or to fight against what happened or the past, and just more get in the place of like, I just want to be free. And that's what matters most to me. And so to get there, I have to really cleanse my mind to be in alignment with whatever my preference is. And so it is that, yeah, was I trained to believe this? Do I actually believe it? Who did it come from? Do I trust that person? Did they have my best interest at heart? Do I want their life? Did they seem like they knew what they were doing? Do I like how they did things in life, or do I want to do it my own way? Right. And so I'm more of a kind of default. I like to do things my own way. So I throw away just about everything. But you can pick and choose. There is some good stuff in there. And initially I did kind of throw off everything. And then I've actually come back to the center on a lot of stuff. I'm like, oh, I actually Now that I'm detached from it, I can see it differently, where I can see the value in certain things.
When you were talking about the ego battling against an idea, sometimes people are representative of said idea. So it becomes a battle against a person. And I know this is going to go back to like the detachment idea and all of that, but let's just talk about that representation, because we talk about it on this very sort of philosophical thing, but in the real world, those ideas are represented by things or situations, or like there's a physical manifestation. So if you're a kid separating from a bunch of beliefs that your parents have, it's might be actually battling against them and spending the energy. And you were talking through all of that, and I was imagining the times where, you got in a fight. For me, got in a fight with my stepdad, right? And was not going to back down, did not freaking matter. I was all in, 10 toes down on that thing, whatever it was. Let's just talk a little bit more in like the practical sense of like when you find yourself in the situation where there's a physical thing that represents what you're battling against that you need to like back off from.
Yeah, so we talk about it commonly here, but relationship is it's how we experience ourselves. It's a mirror to us. A lot of times certain beliefs and ideas are going to be representative of a person. Usually that's where it came from, but it doesn't always have to be. There could be other characters in our life that show up that model certain similar beliefs or ideas, and they actually plug us into the same patterns as maybe the caregiver. It is an interesting dynamic. It's like, well, the lesson for me to learn is I need to get to the bottom of this, where it doesn't have this big reaction attached to it, because that's what pulls me in. That's when I'm in the battle, and I'm not actually I'm involved in the battle because it's a lesson I need to learn. Okay, and usually the lesson is for us to really value ourselves, and to give ourselves the self-care, give ourselves the things that we felt we missed out on or didn't get because of that line of thinking. A lot of times you could see like, oh yeah, the way they think about this is harmful and it caused me all this pain. And so I need to like show them that. Okay. But that's the thing is like, we really need that for ourselves. We always bring it back inward because I need to come to peace with the things I never got, or the things I wanted, or the things I felt like I had to betray myself in order to exist in that environment. But it's always that challenge to step more into ourselves, to integrate these wounds so that I can fully step forward, and I don't have to carry the guilt, the shame, the grief, the anger, like all the things attached to that certain dynamic. And so people are going to keep showing us these different patterns until we master them. And you've experienced this many times in the work, where it's just tons of different layers of it. And each time we shave a layer off, it gets easier and easier. But you'll know when you get to the bottom of it is it just won't have any power over you anymore. And sometimes that's quite a journey. But the things that have tons of those layers attached to them, that's generally the big important lesson that we need to learn to really honor ourselves and to move forward powerfully, is we need to gather all those parts of ourselves back. On some level, it's believing in a bigger picture that, hey, this challenge was delivered to me in order to mold me and shape me into some type of person that's connected to a purpose of why I'm here. And so that's the thing. I hate this lesson. I hate engaging with this, but it's like that's also probably the thing I need. We talk about that all the time. Hey, go spend time with family, go learn about how they think and see how you react to it. And we're just trying to clean up those reactions and just allow people to be who they are, be in full acceptance. Hey, like this caused me a lot of pain, but if I heal the pain, that pain's no longer there. And so in that place, we bring in forgiveness and try to make peace with it. But that also frees my energy up to move forward. And that's the main idea. Forgiveness is always, it's for us. It's for us to be able to move forward in a new way. If I'm not getting to that step, there's part of me that's still hung up in the battle. And so now I still have split energy. I'm just trying to get myself clean. I have to value my freedom and my life over everything else. Like I have to get to that place where it's just like nothing's worth me living in this prison anymore. Nothing's worth me maintaining this battle the more I shed my ego, the need to be right, the need to be validated, the need for this person to see how they hurt me, like all those games, it's dependent on the other person. And the trick is like once we actually do the work and we heal things, that actually creates a space and a new dynamic with another person. So they actually, on some level, pick up on that. And generally, we start to experience that person differently. Okay. And they might actually, over time, start to share things. They might start to share some remorse or regret or, hey, like, yeah, I didn't realize what I was doing then. And I didn't mean to do that. Like, these are the things that were going on with me at that time. Like, sometimes you get that stuff down the road. Once you heal a pattern, is it creates that new space for that person to see themselves differently. Um, and that's where it gets really trippy is like it always just comes back to you. And I believe this is like 1,000% now because I've seen it so many times. But it's like once you heal your wounds, you're actually like delivered the next steps, usually through the other person or somebody like it, that is going to give you that validation. They're going to share that, hey, like I didn't actually mean to do that, or there was a misunderstanding, or this is this is where I was at in my life. I was in a tough spot. I wasn't feeling very good about myself. Like whatever it is, sometimes we never get that, but that's the key is like with this work, you can kind of heal anything independent of anybody else. But that's also what creates the window and the opportunity for them to share insightful things that could actually take our healing to the next level. So, our goal is always to get to the bottom of it so we can have that freedom to move forward, and in that place, we're letting go of the bitterness, resentment, and anger attached to the situation. And and on some level, that person can feel it because, anytime I'm like resentful towards a person, there's a tension to that. Like my interactions usually have an edge to them. And so if that's no longer there, that person can sense that subtly. And generally we start to experience a softer version of them, one that we don't have to battle with, one that's more accepting. But that's the thing is everybody's just kind of fighting these internal battles. And a lot of times when people are in authority, they kind of have that permission to throw their battles onto everybody else around them. And when we no longer hold that energy, it has to go somewhere. It returns back to the person so they have the chance to examine it. But if I'm carrying the damage from it, I'm actually shouldering part of those burdens where that person's not feeling the weight and gravity of their actions, right? And so that goes back to our last podcast of, I don't have to carry everything for everybody else. A lot of times that's what they need in order to have the change of heart to really see things. So all these things are very intertwined. And when you get to these deeper levels, it is pretty cool to kind of see these things play out because you really start to trust that really, it is all about me finding peace with myself. And this person's just representative of what I need to find peace with. And my conflict with them, that's showing me aspects of myself that are wounded, that I'm holding myself back. Actually, it's nothing the other person's doing. I may have had to live a certain way at a certain point in time in my life where I felt like that's what I needed to do. And that was really painful for me. And so once we start to free up that energy, now we can get it moving in the right direction. A lot of these things are pretty intricate. The really challenging stuff with our caregivers, that's everybody has it to some degree. Some people have very intense versions of it. And the more complex and intense it is, generally there's more layers to it. So you have to really dig. But what's really cool is like as you get to the bottom of it, you gain tremendous wisdom and compassion and understanding in that place. And you also develop a lot of gifts in that process because you start to see life at a deeper level. Generally, people with the greatest amount of pain, if they work through that, they can have the greatest amount of gifts. It really forms you in this way that really nothing else can, except for the hard road. There is a lot of reward attached to having painful beginnings because it does really like refine you and strengthen you in certain ways that nothing else could.
So let's talk a little bit about, I mean, you could use baseball for you or horses for me, something that was a huge, maybe all encompassing part of your life for a period of time. I mean, now it's not. Or maybe you're like in one of those phases and you're trying to figure out how to move on for something. Let's talk about that a little bit.
We tend to like look at things as like an investment. If I like put all this energy into something and it didn't work out the way I wanted it to, desire to cling to it and to try to get something out of it. But in reality, like a lot of things, we do get what we need out of it, but we just take it past the point because we don't think it looks like it should have. Okay. We thought there was going to be some like finish line or some like achievement or something attached to it. But maybe it was like it served exactly what it needed to. Maybe the whole purpose ran its course, and we really just need something to focus on to get started. This version of things generally is that period in our 20s, I think for a lot of people, where you just like dig in and obsess about something and work really hard at it. And, it's that expectation is that it's going to produce something that I can kind of hang my hat on. And yeah, so I had a number of chapters of this. So that it was baseball, but then, even like a lot of the spiritual work, I dove very, very deep into that for a very long time, and it built me. It did what it needed to do. And now I care less and less about it. Okay. Because it kind of cemented character traits, skills, abilities, all these things like into me that I just like carry with me naturally. And now where it doesn't take the same work, it doesn't take the same attention to detail. And so it's just kind of knowing that it doesn't always look like it should have. Or we drew it up in our mind, and that's okay. But like there is no like wasted experience. I can't view it as an investment. I have to view it as like, hey, like I felt really called to do this. I put a lot of time and energy into that. And there was a lot of things happening that I wasn't even aware of every step of the way. I thought it was the thing that I was going to get, but it was really like who I became in that process. That's really important. And that's where the gold is. I think that's the piece that a lot of people struggle with is I've put so much into this, like I want it to be this, but it usually does what it needs to do. We just need to get our mind up to speed with that of like, yeah, this is how this was actually supposed to go. Right. That's the further extension of this work is we just really want to make peace with the past. That's all I'm ever talking about, because my judgments of what it needed to be, and maybe it didn't become that, like now that's going to sink my confidence and I'm going to have like all these negative emotions attached to it. And that's our work, is to get to the place of peace with it. So a lot of times I might keep clinging to it. I might still try to keep some of it alive, but there's no energy behind it anymore. I got everything I needed out of it. You commonly see this with athletes, but that it could be a career, it could be or a relationship. It could be a lot of these things of, yeah, I saw this result happening and it hasn't happened. I might need to just stick with it longer, even though that everything within me is like fighting against it. Okay. So that's what we want to listen to is like your body, your intuition knows when something's run its course. We build all these habits behind things. We put the practices in and we still put all the work in daily on a daily basis. And so those muscles kind of have to wear down so we can fully surrender it, because our nervous system is always pushing us towards the same actions. But you're also going to notice it doesn't feel the same way. That, it's not exciting anymore, that it doesn't bring you any joy, that you're actually very frustrated with it. And there's actually, you're not getting a lot out of it anymore. That's usually the time to set something down. And that's also the time to grieve it. Okay, it's to really sit with it and feel the weight of it. Because what we're trying to do is discard that identity. We're trying to let that fall away and shed so that we have access to all those gifts that we built in that process. Much like we talked about with the other dynamics, it is about creating that space. And that space is about me getting to the place where I don't care anymore. And that sounds weird, but it's like me kind of shifting gears. It's me letting that die. And then so I can care about something new. But I've built up all this stuff in that process, the consistency, the discipline, the skill sets, the being able to work different dynamics associated with that. All that stuff has carryover to other areas. We don't see everything as all is lost. We see it as like it's an ongoing evolution. And part of the evolution is I'm going to go through a series of like identity deaths, ego deaths, where I have to let go of something that was really important to me at one time. It's not important to me anymore. I just have to grieve it. I have to let that unwind from my system and let that stuff fall away so that I can have full access to everything I've built. I can channel it in a new way that's fresh and new and exciting for me. that can really get the spark going again. But the grieving process is real with that. It does happen every time. But sometimes we know it's going to happen. And so we delay it, right? We try to keep it going longer so that we don't have to feel the grief of it. But the grief part is important because that's what allows us to shed that old skin and really step into something new. But it's one of those things. It is on your own time frame. It is sometimes you have to stick with things a little bit past that deadline to really get to the bottom of how you really feel about it. And there's no judgment on that. It's just like eventually we do want to unhook from it and let it go rather than just continue to carry it with us forever because now we're just living in the past. So it's allowing that stuff to serve its purpose, and most things are just a phase. Very few things are lifelong things. I might have periods, the things that are lifelong, and I could say this probably about my spiritual life. It's like an evolution, and there's bursts of like really intense times, and then there's times where it's a slower pace. There's times where I'm not engaged with it. There's times where I pick it back up again. It's allowing yourself to flow with it where it doesn't need to look a certain way the duration of your life. It's always checking in, where am I currently at with this? How do I feel about it right now? And operating from that place rather than, oh, these are just habits and so I'm just going to keep doing them, because the longer I keep doing them, now it just becomes pretty mechanical where I'm not really engaged with the process anymore. And there's not much life to it. Sometimes things just need a refresh where I take a step back, clear my head, focus on other things for a while, and then I come back to it. Other things, it's just like, yeah, this chapter's done and I need to close it eventually. So you need to search yourself to see what that is for you, but depending on the situation and what you're involved in. But I think it's really going through that full process of like, how do I actually feel about this right now? I can't keep operating on old ideas about it and carrying that forward forever, because I might be missing out on my next chapter. I might be missing out on all the new things. And I might be like sinking my confidence where I don't actually feel like I'm equipped to go do other things because this thing didn't turn out the way I wanted it to. So, I don't even call it cutting your losses. I just say it's like, yeah, the time's passed and it's more of your energy's growing in a new direction and we want to keep following that. And so part of that is going to be going through that grief process. And once you go through that fully, you'll kind of notice, which I've expressed before, especially with baseball, where it's just like, I literally don't care anymore. It doesn't even feel like my life. It's allowing you to go through those cycles, because you may be blocking like who you're supposed to be becoming. You may be blocking your next chapter if we hang on to those things too long.
Great. If you were going to leave our listeners with a couple key takeaways from this one or things for them to think about as they're on their own journey, what would those be?
Yeah, I really loved the example you gave of what you did during COVID. I think that's a very useful practice to just kind of put things up there and just really connect to, like, what do you truly believe? If we're going to live in integrity, it is about clarifying what that is, your own unique value system, how you want to live your life, your own preferences, like all that stuff. And we want to start to channel our energy there. And so part of that is being selective about what you care about. And you don't have to care about everything. You don't have to care about what other people care about. If you do get pulled into things because of the negative emotions, I encourage you to really take a deeper look at that first before you fully dive in head first and commit to things. You don't want to be building your life based on wounds. That might lead you down a pretty rough road, and it really detaches you from yourself. So it's really about always bringing it back to yourself first, figuring out what's true for you, and then acting from that place. And it is about allowing yourself to detach, not fight all the battles, disengage from things, not care about things that might be maybe you were told you should care about or that you shouldn't care about. You get to choose that stuff. You have to be in charge of your energy. If you're going to get anywhere, you have to be able to manage that effectively. And we all have a certain limited capacity, and you can't be wasting energy in all these different directions and expect not to be stuck. It's more about being selective. The things that are true to your heart, definitely act on that stuff, definitely care about that stuff, but it doesn't need to be what everybody else tells you. That can be a pretty tough battle in itself. We might disappoint others, we might let down, they might get upset with us, but this is our life to live, and we have to figure out what we want to do with it. And a big part of making an impact regardless is getting clear on yourself, building your capacity, getting stronger, cleaning up a lot of these negative emotions that pull you off track so quickly, and finding your center and acting from that centered place. That's where all the magic happens. That's where, we have the peace and compassion and all the access to all the resources we need to deal with people effectively is when we've worked through our emotions and we have a deep understanding of them. And in that place, you really start to understand who you are on a deep level. Once you understand that, you stop self-sacrificing so much as well. So they go hand in hand, because if I really know who I am at my core, there's certain things I will do and there's certain things I won't do. You get clear on all that, your whole value system. So, it's a worthwhile journey. It's a lot of tough work, but I think the initial steps is just taking inventory of your beliefs, how you really want to live your life. Where did things come from? Were they just given to you, or did you consciously choose those? The more, if we're going to build a conscious life, it is about choosing more and more things coming from your heart center rather than just getting pulled into what everybody else thinks you should do.
Great. This was good. So let's talk about all the places people can find you. Any other updates or anything you want to share?
But yeah, so if you're curious about this work and would like to learn how to detach and get really clear on the direction you're headed, you can reach out and schedule a free 30-minute strategy session with me on my website, brandonthielk.com. So I just get to learn a little bit about you and share how I can help. Also, if you want to register for the lightning report, you can do that also on my website. It's just a recap of the week and some insights to think about as you go about your week. If you want to follow along on YouTube and Instagram at Brandon Thielk, we post out there regularly. Also at bthielk on TikTok. Please like, subscribe, follow, ask any questions that you have. I would love to hear from you and learn how I can support you in a bigger way.
Just like always, all the links for all of those places will be in the show notes or the YouTube description.
We'll see you next time.
All right, talk to you later, Brandon.